Hey guys, welcome to Thrive Bites, the official podcast of Dr. Colin Zhu, aka the Chef Doc. On every episode, I talk with health and wellness experts from all over the world, such as doctors, chefs, dietitians, coaches, and many more. And I sit down with them and have casual conversations about plant-based lifestyle, how to elevate our emotional resilience, and what it really means to thrive. And I bring all of this to you. So let's get to this week's episode. Okay, guys, well, welcome to another episode of Thrive Bites. I'm your host, Colin Zhu, and thank you for listening on. Today, I have an amazing guest and a very, very dear friend and colleague. This is Dr. Ashley Maltz. Say hi to everyone, Ashley.
Hey, y'all. How are you?
I'm so glad and so stoked that she's here. For those of you who do not know who she is, Dr. Maltz is a double-boarded certified in Internal and Integrative Medicine. She earned her degree in medical degree and her master's in public health from University of Texas in Galveston. And she also has a 2-year clinical fellowship in integrative medicine through Stamford, Connecticut. And she studied medical acupuncture. She has extensive training and probably would take the entire episode just to name them all. Where are you calling from?
So, Colin, I am currently in Houston. I work and live in both Houston and Austin, Texas.
Oh, excellent. Well, I thank you for so much for jumping onto the show. And, you know, I think you and I, we've known each other since 2013, I would say, or 2012, 2013, right around there. I met you and Dr. Ingrid Edstein around the same time. So we've been, had very, very, very common and mutual interests. And, we've had a lot of fun since. So, yeah, let's get into it. I'd love to share you with everyone else. So my question is that I love starting off with, talking about the story of my guests and how they arrive from point A to point B. It's really the centerpiece of how we actually, came about and presented ourselves to what we do in the world and, what our place is. So I would love for you to share your story about how you came to your current moment.
So it's a long and winding story, but I'll just, give you the gist. I grew up in Houston and my parents I come from a family of immigrants. So my whole entire family is from South Africa. I was the first American born in our family. And I was pretty much surrounded by health and wellness throughout my life. My dad's an eye doctor and very inclined towards keeping healthy. He works out 3 times a week heavily or 4 times, as much as he can. He's in his 70s now and he could probably take me to the bank in terms of physical fitness. I know he could because he goes to Orange Theory 3 times a week
People are intense over there, huh?
Yeah, he's intense. So, and I grew up around doctors. Very, South African doctors are very well trained, very cerebral, very, not warm and gushy for the most part. And I got it in my head that, once I started to see that I was actually pretty good at science, and once I applied myself, and I really enjoyed the logic of it all and using my brain. Once that happened and I saw, I can do medicine. I have the, wherewithal and I have the work ethic, which is really the biggest part. I knew I wanted to bring a different piece to medicine, a different, more nurturing, and kind of whole person centered piece to that. So I studied psychology in undergrad and biology major, as many of my pre-med friends were doing anyway. and I got into med school. So it was kind of amazing. I chose the University of Texas Medical Branch, UTMB in Galveston, because it was a more relaxed setting. It's on an island in an hour south of Houston, where I grew up. And I just loved the vibe. You know, the professor who interviewed me was in a Hawaiian t-shirt, and it was more of a campus where you go and everyone lives there. Whoever goes to school there, they live there. You see each other at the grocery store, at the gym. And it's just a really fun, very growth-filled time.
Do you do the horns with the hand gesture? Is that the correct?
It is for my undergrad. Yeah, it doesn't really go to the UTMB in Galveston because there's no sports teams. But yeah, I have been known to throw up a longhorn sign here and there, hook 'em horns. I don't personally really care about any of that stuff, but you know, I'll play along. And you know, after that, I chose to stay at UTMB because they have a combined internal and preventive medicine program for residency. So I completed that, which also gave me my master's in public health. After that, I got to go to the East Coast for 2 years, which was so much fun. I did an Integrative Medicine Fellowship there in Stamford, Connecticut. And then they awarded me, or in as part of the fellowship, I got to do the University of Arizona distance fellowship in integrative medicine through the Center for Integrative Medicine at University of Arizona, which I loved, of course. And then I took a job in New Mexico as faculty at the University of New Mexico, and decided after 2 years to return back to my Texas roots. And here we are about 5 years later. So 4.5, but yeah, coming up on 5 years. I practice at West Holistic Medicine downtown in Austin, Texas. And I started a practice in Houston as well with my now partner. And I'm also the chief wellness officer for his company. And I also founded the Austin Wellness Collaborative in 2017, which is a online Facebook group of 1,700 plus people, all who are health and wellness professionals. So that's a big part of my life as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love the circuitous, journey that you've painted us, and it definitely shows, very, very strategic. I don't know if it was strategic at that point during your time, but you could tell, you knew what you wanted very early on, and you knew, what were the next steps after that. So that's really, really cool. So my question is that why the holistic, why the whole person approach? Obviously, your training speaks for itself and is reflective of that. But why is that important in our current healthcare landscape?
To me, it's everything. We are not parts as humans. We are many pieces of many different things. Like, we can't be defined by just an arm and a leg and a heart and a kidney. Those parts are part of us, but there's so much more to us, especially our energetic being, our psychosocial, lives, the way we handle things, what makes us tick. There's so much more to medicine than just parts and labs and medications. Those things are important, but they're not everything. So, what would frustrate me the most was when I was seeing my patients in the hospital or as an internist or as a med student, and they're diabetic or newly diabetic, or, they had a poor diet. And actually, one of the biggest aha moments that I still remember was being in the hospital with a diabetic patient, and lunch or breakfast came, and it was pancakes with syrup. And doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense financially. It doesn't make sense for the patient at all in their body, the way the body handles sugars. So I was always the one carrying, healthy snacks and talking about, emotional health and of my patients, and and how would they get their medications also if they don't have money for it. There's so many factors that go into it. So it was kind of a natural fit for me. And I've been very blessed and fortunate to work with some of the best in integrative and holistic medicine throughout my life and learn from them.
Yeah. So similarly, I've shared in previous episodes that I come from a mother that practices traditional Chinese medicine, and basically practicing like 4 decades. And I didn't have an MD, unlike you. I didn't have an MD. Well, my father's father was an MD. I think he was a infectious disease physician, and passed away when my dad was very young. But pretty much no one else. So I didn't really have that other type of modality to go off of. But she, and this is why I fell in love with just looking at the person as a whole and looking at them from a preventative side, wellness side, and kind of, empathy and compassion and things like that. And really, she really taught me how to communicate with another human being, both personally and professionally. I think that was very key. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. Integrative medicine, which is one of many, many different modalities, and sometimes can be confusing. But I'm very familiar with Dr. Andrew Weil's work, and he's considered like the godfather of not only integrative medicine, but also botanical botany medicine as well. So would you be able to define, because there's so many different types of modalities, there's like functional, alternative, complementary. Can you define a little bit what integrative medicine means?
Absolutely.
And how you would be able, when would you use it? What scenarios, or is it all the time? Hey guys, we're going to be taking a short break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Thrive Bites. Let's get back to the interview.
Yeah, so I personally believe there's some aspect of integrative medicine that goes into every single encounter, even if it's just the way to communicate, and probe deeper for questions. So integrative medicine, the way I describe it, it's a evidence-based blending of modalities that include allopathic medicine. So, Western medicine as we know it today, medication, surgery, those types of things, and other modalities and forms of medicine, such as traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine from India, Native American medicine, Mexican American medicine, whatever it is, traditional folk medicine, Western herbalism, you name it, it's included. What integrative medicine also can mean to some people is you just have different modalities under one house and you can get a bigger service. So like chiropractors and massage therapists and physical therapy. I've seen that and in centers that call themselves integrative medicine. That's not the kind of integrative medicine that I think of when I think of how I practice, but it is a form of integrative medicine. Functional medicine, the way I see where that fits in, and I do practice quite a bit of that, I see integrative medicine as the really big umbrella, and functional medicine is a form of, and like one modality within, under the umbrella. So, similar to chiropractic medicine, it's one modality under the umbrella, similar to acupuncture and TCM, those same things. So it's And then there's always overlap, of course. So anytime I ask a patient about their stress response or what they're stressed about, or if they're doing meditation, that's psychospiritual. I mean, that's a spiritual realm. That's what priests and clergy people were traditionally in the past. That's all they focused on. Well, now that's kind of made its way into medicine because it's important and it affects health outcomes. Nutrition is another one. And that's, some people just go see a nutritionist. Well, they're integrative medicine docs. We can guide you in nutrition. It may not be as detailed as a registered dietitian, but it's, we can give you food plans to follow and discuss, omega-3 fatty acids and, all the things. So does that answer? Oh, complementary medicine would be, if you have allopathic medicine, like let's say a cancer center, cancer centers are very good examples of complementary medicine. So you have your oncologist and your radiation oncologist, and you see them and you're doing your thing, you're getting chemo, and you see the acupuncturist at the center. That's a complementary modality to help your treatment and to help you through the treatment. Alternative would be if you said, no, I'm not going to see any cancer doctors. I'm not going to have chemo or radiation. I'm going to go to Mexico and have alternative treatments like nutrition focused and only, natural things, acupuncture, naturopathic medicine, which is under that umbrella, things like that. So it's a different modality. It's, or a different set. It's without the allopathic. It's in place of, so alternative.
Yeah. So thank you so much for doing that, because a lot of clients, patients, when they come across these terms, as as difficult as it to translate the lingo of medicine, it's the same thing with these types of broad terms. And sometimes, they can be very confusing. Like you said, it could be very overlapping as well. So, I appreciate the fact that you're able to break it down, because there is distinction, but at the same time, there's overlap. And unless you're actually practicing it or are aware of all of them, it's hard to kind of make that distinction.
Right.
Yeah, so I think integrative medicine, to me, whatever modality you choose to, practice, or from a patient point of view, it's considered having more tools in your toolbox. I like to think of it like that. For a healthcare practitioner that takes the extensive training or the additional training to learn about this, it's gathering more tools. And similar to, I'm not an MD, I'm an osteopath. And as an osteopathic doctor, we have extra training with our hands to be able to diagnose and treat different types of dysfunctions on the body. And so that's like an additional tool, for example.
Right.
So do you feel that in our current landscape, it's important to have these extra tools? Does it make you a better doctor because of these extra tools?
I think it does. And I feel like there's such a shift towards integrative medicine and functional medicine right now in our colleagues, because the tools work. They actually get to more of the root cause of things. They're not just treating the symptoms. Which sometimes we have to do, but if you can't fix the root cause, I do think I'll give a prime example. In residency, we would have back pain patients, chronic pain patients on our schedule, and every single one of us would look at it and be like, "Oh my God, I really don't want to see that person. I don't know how to help them other than opioids," and it's just not a fun encounter, really. And then I went on to my fellowship and learned trigger point injections and medical acupuncture, and I was able to help them. And it became like my specialty, chronic pain management, natural chronic pain management, and I loved it. So, what I used to really I had a strong aversion to, now I loved, so it can change in that way. And it's enlightening when it does. And, I would hope that more and more practitioners, and I just see it every day, they are embracing these modalities more.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely see it too, but more so in our patient population, because I think the last survey that I read that, most patients that come into the primary care setting, probably more than now, 2/3 of them have already tried, a different type of, modality besides allopathic medicine, like you mentioned, or Western medicine that we, currently practice in. So, digressing to the next topic, from your experience, what do you feel like, because we want to kind of optimize wellness, and that could be, in a sense, it is broad, but if you break it down, it's really about optimizing not just wellness, but actual having true, authentic health, right? So what do you think is missing from most people's lives right now? From your experience, why is it that they are not achieving optimal health? And this could include physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Those last three ones that you mentioned, mental, emotional, and spiritual. I think that's why we don't achieve physical optimal health. We are held back by, traumas from a young age. And that's okay. You had to build up a coping mechanism. We all did, to deal with those traumas as a child when you don't have any tools or protection. And then we just forget. We forget that we need to kind of go back and work on those things. We live in a very high stress world in the Western world, where people are running from activity to activity and have to work very hard in their jobs and at home to maintain, if you have two working people in a household and you have a family, it's a lot of stress. There's, there's constant information flowing at us. You're never good enough, says, our society. And so I think a lot of our physical illnesses come from not tuning into and slowing down enough to tune into our emotional, mental, and spiritual needs. Those things are very important, and we've kind of forgotten them in the last 50 to 100 years. Yeah.
Yeah, because, and I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And I think number one is that notion, which I believe, as far back as, how medicine and how we care for a patient has been established for so long, is that, it's all connected, the physical, the spiritual, and the emotion. And that we need to address all of it, that they're not separate, like you said, that they're all in a integrated whole in the human being. So you have to be aware of it, number one. And then number two would be, how do I address it, right? So you have something undiagnosed, some sort of issue or concern, or if you have it, how do you take care of it? And there's a growing movement and, more voicing of self-care, more of, taking care of each other, positive psychology. There's more and more talks about meditation, yoga, using fitness to be able to help with mental disorders. So from an integrative medicine perspective, do you use any of them, none of them, or would you use as many tools to be able to address it? Like, how would you, kind of address this portion of it from your perspective?
Well, everyone who I see gets asked about their spiritual, beliefs, at least, or just do they have a meditation practice or a mindfulness practice? Are they interested in learning that? And most are open to it or already have a practice. I always, stress and high cortisol is the root of many illnesses. So I definitely find that has to be addressed. And if not by me, then tell them, let's get you set up with a psychotherapist or a counselor or a clergy person. I don't care who is helping as long as you are getting help, right? So, it's always addressed. It's always, most people are open to it. The hardest ones, or people that have the hardest time turning off their minds, that is where, there is some, conflict. Like they'll try, and I'll teach them some breath work, which really helps to lower the sympathetic tone and increase the parasympathetic tone of the nervous system, which leads to rest and digest. So, I think it's key personally. I think I use also, physical fitness. If they're not, at least getting outside for dog walks, whatever it is, I'm going to commend them for it. And then maybe ask them to add a little bit on, like yoga is great for that nervous system reset. Being outside in nature, that's a big thing I talk about a lot. So it's so multifaceted. Nutrition helps your mental health. It helps the gut microbiome has been tracked to really regulate everything at this point in our bodies. So it's fun. I get to talk about things that I love.
What do you practice yourself as a practitioner? Because, a lot of times, when we do our one-on-one counselings, depending on if you're in a traditional model of counseling or coaching a patient, it's very one-sided. We don't really know too much about the provider and the practitioner. We know everything about the patient. So, one of the great things about, being on a podcast is really helping listening audiences to understand their healthcare professional more by having more insight. So, and one of the things is, what do they practice for self-care and what do they do? Because I'm always a big believer of the role model and, practicing what you preach and being that community leader, because I think that's super important in order to be able to change and have effective, behavior change.
Well, first of all, I'll say that I am not perfect in any way, shape, or form.
Wait, you're not?
I'm not. I know. Can you believe it? You've known me this long.
Man, I mean, I have your picture on my wall, and I'm like, Ashley, this is every single day. I gotta measure up to you.
No, not at all. I'm very much about moderation. I'm very. I love to stay active, so my favorite thing is to just be outside. In nature. And fortunately in Texas, we have a lot of sunny days, sometimes too sunny. It's too hot, but I like the summer. But I always find a way to get outside for, even if it's 10 minutes a day, usually with my dogs, but can be otherwise. And then I love dance. So I dance about twice a week, maybe once a week. It just depends on my schedule of the week. And then I do meditation as much as I can. It's a practice. So, some weeks are better than others and some days are better than others. I used to think I had to do one thing and stick to it and be really strict and disciplined. I've given myself a lot of leeway in that regard. I really try to meditate throughout my day in certain ways, like just taking deep breaths, focusing on what's going on in my body, like doing a body scan, like really fast. I can do it while I'm talking to you. I can sense the tension where it is and then consciously let it, just validate it. And it oftentimes will just disappear. I'm doing a lot of emotional, spiritual work with some holistic healers that I work with. I do often have acupuncture and massage as much as I can build in my schedule because it feels so good and I love it. I used to go to chiropractic. I just kind of fell off. I got too busy and just didn't stick with it. And what else? Yeah, I take some salt baths. I try to cook healthfully.
Yeah.
Try to spend time with friends and community. That's very uplifting. So there's a lot. There's a lot that I
Yeah.
do.
Hey guys, we're going to be taking a short break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Thrive Bites. Let's get back to the interview. I'm very fortunate, to having known you and, a lot of our mutual, friends as well that actually do practice what they preach, and they focus a lot on self-care, that are also healthcare professionals and wellness experts. So it's really, because I know it, not a lot of the listening audiences, would, for some of them, it's probably like, wow, I can't believe she does listed all that, you know what I'm saying? So, so it's very important. I mean, I will share with me, I do a lot of, fitness, I try to get in at least a couple, 2 or 3 half marathons a year. I do triathlons, I do CrossFit, I cook a lot. Yeah, I'm like you. I love massages and I practice a lot of self-care, and I'm just a big firm believer, and I think you are too, is that, if we don't take good care of ourselves, we can't take good care of other people. And when you sign up to be a healthcare professional, no matter what type of specialty or what modality you practice, we want to be able to do good by that patient. We want to be able to take care of them the best we can. And so, we want to be able to exercise that and practice that, like you said, on a daily basis. So,
yeah.
And
some days like I said, some days are better than others.
Right.
You can't hold yourself to perfection. We are human. There are days when I'm feeling so much anxiety or tension, or that I can hardly work, like I have to pay attention to that. So, and I've learned these different tools and modalities that help me to get through. And, it's not everyone can take a day off for that, but it just is something I've come to see. It's the most important thing for me to focus on.
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's not perfection. It's about progress. We're always looking for progress, and that just makes us better than the day before, so, so for those of the listening audiences that want to learn more about integrative medicine or integrative care, and maybe not be in your local neighborhood to come see you personally, what would you say would be something good for them to know, having, listened to this episode? Meaning, like, what are some common misconceptions for example, if you have a new patient that comes in and, first time, comes up to you, from your experiences, and they want to optimize their health, right? What are some common misconceptions that they have been carrying around with them up until they see you to be able to optimize their health?
Well, I would start with the biggest one, is that we don't have all the answers every single time. Sometimes if you need medication, you need medication. So a lot of people come to me and say, I want to come off my blood pressure medication, and yet they're a little bit overweight, or even maybe those things have been optimized, and they're older, and we just cannot get them off of the medication. And I'm not gonna put them at risk with daily high blood pressures. That puts their arteries at risk, and it's just not healthy. So, I would wish I had a magic wand for everyone and could just wave it and magically take away all the medication and you're perfectly healthy and optimized, but that's generally not the case. I do have a lot of tricks up my sleeve, and I have ways to address those things, but if those fail, you need to stay on those medications. So that's a big thing I get. I see a lot of bias on all sides of the medical world. So the alternative medicine world is very biased against the allopathic medicine world, and the allopathic medicine world is very biased against the other, alternative. So, and I'm in the middle. I see it all. I know it's there. I'm not biased. Okay, and we all have some bias, but
Sure.
I can see both the benefit and the harm of both, if there is,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think there's a one size fits all for everyone. So there is no one diet that's going to fix everyone or that's right for everyone. That's my true belief from my clinical practice. I've seen very healthy vegans, and I've seen very unhealthy vegans. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen very healthy paleo people, and I've seen very unhealthy paleo people. So it ranges the gamut, and there's a lot of trial and error that goes into what I do and how I practice. And I really think people should have patience um, and work on the emotional stuff the most. That's where the
Mm-hmm.
meat for me is. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I would say would be the misconceptions.
Yeah. And I think how address that is, perfect because, um, it's not 100%. Nothing is ever a guarantee. And as long as you're patient, and we're talking about both parties,
Right.
the practitioner and the patient, as long as you're practicing patience and focusing on progress and not perfection, and it's a relationship, you're going to be working with your fellow practitioner. And it's also okay, we're not offended if you decide to seek a second or third opinion, because at the end of the day, we believe that the patient should be the driver of their own healthcare or
Mm-hmm.
wellness. So,
Yeah.
we're just simply here to be able to offer as many tools, for you as, it's like a whole, it's like a whole Home Depot, for you,
Yeah.
to be able to help people out. And I think that's great because, something doesn't work, you can rely on something else. And I love the fact that you mentioned that not one size fits everyone. And that's true in many sense of the word because, we're unique human beings,
Yep.
what I'm saying? And there's not one of, Dr. Maltz, there's not one of me, et cetera. So it does make sense that not every modality is going to work. So
Right.
as long as vet out your provider, you triple check your facts, and you work with them, that's the beauty of wellness and healthcare and stuff like that.
Right. Right.
Um, so I love it. We're going to close out and, I love asking my guests, what makes them thrive. And, we did touch upon this a lot, throughout the episode, but, again, it's really about what gives that spark and flame for, my guests, what gets them to get up in the morning, what keeps them pushing on, what keeps them, continue to do what they essentially love doing, what makes them thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, and if you need me to repeat, I can repeat, what are 3 tips that you could, relay to our guests that are listening to kind of, how do they get started today to, improve their health?
Mm-hmm. So what makes me thrive? I'd say my relationships. I love people. I'm a people person. That's why actually one of the big reasons why I chose to go into medicine. I love helping them. Not to the point of martyrdom. That was a big,
Mm-hmm.
realization I had to come to through my training and, everywhere, the whole process. But I just love people, and I love hearing people's stories and their resiliency, and really it puts things into perspective in my own life. I also love connecting people. That's a big part of who I am. And, if I can find a great referral for a patient to help augment our therapies, that's another great thing that I love. 3 tips. that can help people get started?
Yeah, 3 tips for them to get started if they want to optimize their wellness today.
So first thing, I would look into what brings you joy, and whether or not your life is concurrent with that joy. If not, what can shift around that? Like, you don't have to quit your job, but how can you, emotionally or spiritually kind of shift your perspective in that regard? The second thing I would say is get active and get outside. We just forget about the outdoors, not so much in California. Y'all are, out on the beaches every day, but, in suburbia, there's just not a lot of people outside. So turn off the screens, go outside. There's a whole world out there, and it's really healthy for you to be outdoors. And then the third is to focus on your sleep and get proper, healthy, enough sleep. Because if you're not, and you're not one of those people that can thrive on no sleep, there are those people. I live with one of them. Then you really you can't enjoy life as much to the fullest. And your body suffers too. So those are my 3 top.
Awesome. I love it. Tips. I love it. Especially the joy. I think that's really one of the things that people, forget about. We're so used to our routines and our day-to-day 9 to 5s that we forget why we do the things we do and why do we live the lives that we live. Is it for someone else or is it for you? What I'm saying? And yes, you may have children, you may have families, but at the same time, it's like they are the extension of you. And it's super important. I think not enough people take the time out to figure out, who is that person?
Right.
And, you're blessed with a gift of life, and we have to use that time wisely to be able to go and discover that.
Yeah.
So
it's very important.
So for those of the listening audience that wants to reach out to you or look you up, where can they find you?
I am on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Google. I'm everywhere. I do practice in Austin right now at West Holistic Medicine. I have an overall website for myself called ashleymaltzmd.com. Pretty simple. And, you can look me up on any of those outlets. Instagram at ashleymaltzmd. Facebook, same thing, at Ashley Maltz MD. And yeah, I'm out there. I don't have a YouTube channel for myself. I have one.
Not yet.
Yeah, I have one for the Austin Wellness Collaborative, but that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I forgot to mention, you and I were in Costa Rica when we did the physician wellness retreat.
Yes.
That was, man, it just seems like a lifetime ago.
I know. 2015?
Yeah. Oh my God. Has it been that long?
Yes, it has.
But I remember doing this 3-way, interview series with you, Dr. John Bonnet, and Dr. Ingrid, and we had a blast. It was just so much fun.
Yeah. Oh man, I'd love to go back and do it again.
Yeah, we need to go. Say hi to Henry again. So.
Yes.
So thank you so much for taking the time out to be able to lend your voice and your wisdom and your talents. And, I'm very happy to call you my friend and colleague, and so glad that the listening audience could, hear about, just a little bit about your story and what you do. So, I thank you so much for hopping onto the show.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for having me. It was a blast.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Guys, this has been another episode of Thrive Bites. Catch us here. And if you like, please subscribe and follow. And we will see you on the next episode. So long, everyone. Hey, guys, that was another episode of Thrive Bites. If you like that episode, please subscribe and follow for new episodes. And don't forget to rate us on Apple Podcasts.